afternoon, everybody. Welcome along to Oulton Park for the first of two races that we've got for you this afternoon for the Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli. We are running to a revised timetable for this afternoon, so if you're hoping to have already seen one of the races, then don't worry, you've not missed it. It's coming up now. We've had some significant delays throughout the course of the day with a few incidents on circuit. Those have all been cleared up. Drivers are all fine, but we have had some track damage to sort out. So the cars are already heading around on their formation lap. These times were set in qualifying this morning in what is a sunny, for the moment, but blustery day here in Cheshire. Let's guide you through the grid. Steve Wood lines up on pole position, and alongside him is Mark McAleer, with row 2 being Neil DeLargy and multiple champion Pete Morris. The third row of the grid, on the inside of the third row of the grid, it's all really on the third row of the grid, a Caley family affair, because it's James Caley and Bill Caley that line up on row number 3, with row 4 being Kevin Harrison and Chris Dyer. The fifth row of the grid, on the inside of the fifth row, it's Richard Baston, and for company he has got Jim Bryan. And on row number 6, that's where we see the car of Andy Toon alongside the first of the cars that runs in Class 2. It's the number 88 car of Paul Simpson, who qualified on pole position in reality for the Class 2 machines. The next row of the grid is row number 7. Oliver Chatham lines up alongside Andrew Porter, with Pete Evans and Ross Morris, who is son of Pete Morris, further up the grid, sitting there on row number 8. Darren Labette is there on row number 9 alongside Paul Seagrave, and then it's Shiraz Khan and Vince Blackett that are next up on the 10th row of the grid. Row number 11 sees Carl Hazelton line up alongside Julian Morris, and at the back of the grid it is Brian Richardson, number 89 car of Atherton, that sits there at the tail end of the grid. So that's the grid. Blustery conditions here. Piers Pryor joins me in the commentary box, at least for the start of the race, before he's then got to disappear. Looking forward to this one. Nice full grid of Porsches.
Yeah, great grid of Porsches in this Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli, and we've seen some excellent racing over the season so far. Great to see a number of different Porsches racing together at very, very similar speeds. We've of course got the two classes, but also you've got the different cars in each class. 996 on pole, then some 997s, Caymans, and then the Boxster S's as well in Class 2.
Yeah, so looking forward to this one. They have already completed their formation lap. We'd usually see them come out of the paddock area and do a shorter lap to get to the grid and then do a formation lap, but because of the time being constricted because of delays, they come out and do the full formation lap straight away. So Steve Wood's car is the car that sits there on pole position. That's the yellow car that sits there on the front row of the grid. It's largely the black and grey car of Mark McAleer that sits alongside. Row 2 of the grid is Neil DeLargy in the dark blue car alongside the red and the black and the white car of Pete Morris. 5-second board is held aloft. The 20 seconds are showing on the clock, and we are about to get round 7 of the 2023 Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli underway here at Oulton Park. Revs begin to rise, they fire the cars off the grid, and it looks as though it's a good start from the Caley car that sits there on the second or third row of the grid, but the best of the starts is for Mark McAleer, who's going to carve his way through from the outside of the front row of the grid to lead as they turn their way through Old Hall Corner for the first time. Somebody running very, very wide, 2 or 3 cars running wide. Thankfully the grass has somewhat dried up to when we were here earlier on this morning, but it is going to be Mark McAleer with that great launch off the start that leads from Steve Wood in second place, and Pete Morris is there in third. Yeah,
great start at the front of the field, but we were seeing them go 3 wide in the middle and the back of the pack, which is what caused those drivers to go wide. We've got to move for 5th place now up towards, and the contact, oh no, that car's gone wide. That is not a good place to go off.
Yeah, all through the gravel trap at Island Bend, but I think he's going to rally across his way back on. I think it was Neil DeLargy that just made light contact with the Caley car, and it looks as though he has been able to rejoin. That would be James Caley, because it's the 997, whereas Bill Caley runs in the Cayman. So gravelly moment, and that would spike the heart rate, I would guess, Piers Pryor, because that is not really where you want contact heading up towards the very, very fast left-hander at Island Bend.
Yeah, basically, if anywhere you don't want to go onto the grass is in the entry into that very, very fast Island Bend, because as much as there is a lot of grass, if the grass has been wet like it has been today, sometimes it's a bit of a one-way ticket. But someone making his way through, James Caley will have to fight his way through, so it'll be a fun race, but I'm sure he'll be disappointed with the result if he doesn't get all the way back to where he was.
Yeah, it's just the lightest of touches, so let's crack on with what's happening at the front still. We'll try and pick up on what's going on in Class 2 as well, because remember it was Paul Simpson that qualified 12th quickest, was the fastest of the Class 2 cars. So they head round through Druids and in towards the shaded section of the circuit before they pop back out from behind the trees into the bright sunlight again once more. And Mark McAleer leads the way, but in second place Steve Wood is feeling the pinch a little bit from Pete Morris that sits behind. Those front 3 have certainly broken away.
Yeah, those front 3 just breaking away ever so slightly, but I'm expecting them to come together because Steve Wood was, of course, the fastest in qualifying, not by a huge margin, only a tenth of a second or so, but Neil Delaghe is not far off either.
No, so those top three are pretty much there. Who is leading Class 2 as they come over the start-finish line at the end of the first lap of the race? Here we've got a change as Pete Evans looks to try and sneak up the inside of Oliver Chatham, but Oliver Chatham closes the door. Pete Evans runs wide, car behind follows. A leading Class 2 at the end of the first lap was in 11th position. It was the number 44 car of Andrew Porter who has gone to the lead of Class 2.
Yeah, those drivers running wide at the exit of turn 1 will have been picked up by the stewards and the marshals, and there's a track limit sensor on the circuit there as well, so they'll be using up some of their free passes before they get a warning, and then ultimately, potentially, if they do continue to leave the circuit, a 5-second penalty, and so on with every time they leave the circuit. So they'll have to be keeping an eye on that. There's a few places where you can get pinged for track limits. Turn 1, I believe Cascades, the exit at turn 2 as well, or is it turn 3, depending on which way you lean, and then also the exit at Knickerbrook.
Yeah, I think officially Cascades is the exit of turn 3 in reality, the way that it works, because turn 2 is really the very slight kink at Denton's at the top of the hill. I think that's the way it works. So Steve Wood, the championship leader, leads the way at the moment. Further down through the order, Richard Bayston has got his hands rather full. He's got Jim Bryant behind him, and then just off that is Andy Toon at the wheel of the white and the black and the orange Cayman. So those three are having a brilliant little battle for the final 3 places inside the top 10 currently.
Yeah. Wood in second place, still not managing to actually close that gap hugely to the leader, doesn't look like, although the middle sector was faster by a tenth and a half, but then the first sector, sorry, but then the middle sector, McAleer was, 6 tenths nearly faster than the rest of the field, so he's clearly putting the hammer down and trying to extend that gap to what it already is, and the gap as they come over the line is now nearly 2 seconds. Wow.
Yeah, are we going to have a change for position here as Pete Morris fires one up the inside of Steve Wood, who was trying to turn in towards the apex but realised that Pete Morris was already there. Brilliant stuff done by the hugely experienced Pete Morris to go through and ahead of the man who leads the championship. Yeah,
Morris clearly feeling like he's being a bit held up by Wood and sending a move into turn 1, which was quite late, but it got all the way alongside. You've got a bit of extra road to work with at turn 1 than you do around most of the rest of the lap, so you can use that to your advantage, but that's not going to help their charge onto the back of McAleer, because with him setting the fast lap of the race of 51.5 on that last lap, and those two both in their sort of a high 52s, it's going to be tricky for them to catch it if they can't find some pace.
Yeah, the other interesting dynamic that we have is that, of course, this Class 1 battle towards the front pitches the 997s against the 996s. Well, the 997 has more power, and therefore, under the regulations, it has to run a heavier curb weight, so it's a heavier car. So undoubtedly, over the course of the 20-minute race, the Pirelli tyres are going to drop off a little bit as Neil Delaghe is now coming under pressure from Kevin Harrison, but Kevin Harrison draws himself alongside. He's going to have to go around the outside at Hislops if he wants to make it stick. No, Kevin Harrison thinks better of it, tucks himself back behind once more. So yeah, the tyre drop-off could be different, the 997s to the 996s.
Yeah, definitely, because of course more weight and more power will mean more tyre wear. But yeah, you could see Delaghe clearly missed a gear or didn't quite get it in as quickly as he wanted on the exit of the Britain chicane, which caused that slight overlap from Harrison behind, and then you saw him, Delaghe, fighting with the wheel through the middle of the Knickerbrook chicane as well, so clearly pushing on, and the times in qualifying were pretty close, less than 2 seconds between the top 7 or 8 drivers.
Yeah, Neil Delaghe we haven't seen huge amounts of so far this year. He appeared for the first 3 races of the season but hasn't scored any points subsequently. His best has been a 4th so far, which is where he is sitting at the moment. So he'll be desperate to hang on to it, but look in his mirrors, cars queuing up behind. It's the white and the silver and the green car of Kevin Harrison. Then it'll be the number 80 car of Bill Caley, and then the number 9 car in the hands of Chris Dyer, not that far off. So the 2 Caymans clinging on to the coattails of the 996s and 997s that lie ahead.
Peter Morris in second place set his fastest lap of the race and was nearly as fast as the previous lap from McAleer, but you just saw on screen McAleer then going even faster again, a 151.2 second lap time, so the gap is extended from 2 seconds to nearly 3 at 2.7 seconds as it stands.
Yeah, Mark McAleer has had a best finish of a couple of 3rd places so far this year, so he'll be desperate to see if he can scoop up his best result of the season so far. Running wide there was the number 15 car, Sadiq Khan. Go on.
Wood must have run into the back of Peter Morris because he's dropping water, definitely dropping water. Look on the front if we can get a shot of the yellow car in 3rd place of Wood. It's dropping some sort of fluid, certainly.
Yeah, I saw something there just
there
as
you
you
go.
said it. Yep, so there is, yeah. Oh, there we go,
Oh,
Steve
no.
Wood. He's lost the car heading in towards the Hislop chicane, spins across the track, spins back onto the grass, and that was well spotted there, Piers Pryor, because all of that was him spinning on his own fluid.
Yeah, actually, I suggested it might have run into the back of Morris, but it doesn't look like there's any damage on that car other than the water falling out, so potentially just a popped radiator or a loose pipe. But unfortunately, that's ended Wood's race early. But fortunately, he didn't collect anyone going through the Knickerbrook chicane there.
Yeah, what we don't want are any more incidents today after what has been a long old day so far with not a great deal of racing. But that's the championship leader out of the race, and that really opens up possibilities for others. The other difficult thing is, of course, next time around they'll get to that braking area heading in towards Hislops, and well, even if it's water, it's going to have coolant mixed with it, and that doesn't evaporate overly quickly, even on a warm day like this.
No, it does not. It seems like everyone's managed to make their way through as we're continuing to fight.
Yeah, that's Bill Caley working his way through and past Kevin Harrison. Now it looks so Chris Dyer in the red and black car has got a run, so 2 places lost there for Kevin Harrison over the course of that particular lap. Both of the Caymans managing to sneak through and ahead of the 996.
Yeah, we haven't seen any evidence of anyone else going straight on at Knickerbrook, so hopefully the Wood collected all of his own fluid, although we've got a yellow flag waving still. Is that on the... Where is that being waved? That is on down towards the Knickerbrook chicane, where of course Wood is stopped. So yeah, looks like hopefully that circuit's dried out, and we can... There's a marshal doing a particular signal there to signify that they need a lift by the looks of it.
Yeah, suspended tow, so that's what it will need, that car.
Still dropping water off the circuit this time though, but hopefully we can continue to race under yellows there so we don't have to have a safety car.
Here we're looking at the recovering number 11 car of James Caley, who is now up to 9th position. He's got himself ahead of the number 4 car at the Cayman in the hands of Andy Toon, and is now trying to hunt down the number 74 car that lies ahead, which is Jim Bryan. He's not going to be able to unpick Jim as they head in towards the chicane that time through, but as they come out of Hilltop and Britain chicane over Hilltop in towards that yellow flag zone, he would like to overtake, but he's not able to do so, so he's just going to hold station for the moment as they turn their way through the right and the left flicks at Hislop and then turn right again at Knickerbrook. So this is a good little fight for 8th, 9th, 10th and I think 11th places at the moment, is it?
Yeah, fight for the lower end of the top 10, and finishing in the top 10 is of course always something that all of the drivers will want to do, so they'll be fighting hard for those positions, and it's very close still for this race, and it looks like defending once again down towards the final corner, looking right, looking left, can't get it done this time. It's great defensive driving there.
Yeah, brilliant defensive driving. However, is Neil Delaghi going to lose out here to Bill Caley? Bill Caley wants to attack. He's got to defend from Chris Dyer. Kevin Harrison is not too far away. All of these are fighting over 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th position as Kevin Harrison throws one up the inside of Chris Dyer. The 996 sneaks its way through going into the corner, but is he going to compromise his exit? And Chris Dyer is going to try and get the overlap on the way out. They run side by side along the avenue up towards the little kink at Denton's, and well, yeah, short-lived, wasn't it, gaining that position? He was quick in but slow out, and Chris Dyer returned the favour.
It's great racing between those two, but also shows you how much time you lose when you are fighting, because these two right in front of them are pulled nearly a couple of seconds just in a couple of corners.
Yeah, so this is a great little fight that's going on. Hopefully we could pick up on what's going on for the lead of Class 2 as well, because last time I looked, the number 44 car of Andrew Porter, which is largely white and black and red, was leading Class 2, but only by a split second really from the car that was second in Class 2, Paul Simpson's car, the number 88 car. So those two were squabbling away elsewhere around the circuit whilst we're looking at the fantastic fights that are going on at the sharp end. I think it's worth mentioning also, Piers, we've got 2 races for these here today. If you're a Class 1 car, you get 1 set of slick tyres for every race meeting. If you're in a Class 2 car, it's only every second race meeting you get a brand new set of slick tyres. So any of the Class 2 cars here today racing on the same tyres that they would have used at Anglesey. Yeah,
it's a great thing that the Championship do to make sure that it's a little more cost effective while not impacting the competitiveness of the Championship, because if everyone has to run the same tyres, everyone has to run the same tyres, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the Pirelli build a brilliant tyre, but of course the Class 1 machines use them much harder. Neil Delaghi misses the apex at Druids Corner, and Bill Caley was almost able to unlock the door to a podium spot there, but Delaghi just about got it sorted out in time. Poor old Bill Caley, who had a run, had to get off the gas there, so that compromised him somewhat there, did it not?
Yeah, that's part of racing, is sometimes you're just not quite in the right place at the right time, but this fight still going on.
Yeah, this is further down through the order, heading towards us now, and still trying to pick up on what's going on for the lead of Class 2 as things stand. As we look at some of the squabbles further down through the order, there goes the number 52 car of Darren Lebet. He sits there 15th overall. He will be 4th in Class 2 currently. Class 2 lead was, it's now opened up quite significantly, has it? No, it's 0.7 of a second actually lead for Class 2, down in 11th and 12th places respectively.
Yeah, that's Porter and Simpson. We were seeing them a few laps ago, getting very, very close. They are still just as close in for the lead of that class. Some great liveries going on here. I think there was it's almost like a meter on the front of, I didn't catch the number of it, but the front of this group. It's so good to see so many cars in their own unique style.
Yep, so another little squabble down through the order. That is Richard Baston fighting away with Andy Toon. Andy trying to close in to see what he might be able to do to steal 9th place away. So this is for 9th and 10th positions, 7.5 minutes to go. 6 laps completed by the race leader Mark McAleer, who leads by 7.1 seconds now, so it's quite a comfortable lead. And this is going to be the battle for the lead of Class 2 that I was talking about. So brilliant stuff done by the camera team to pick up on the squabble that's going on. It's the number 44 car that only just leads Andrew Porter. He has got right on his trumpet, hasn't he? Paul Simpson, who qualified on pole in Class 2, but couldn't convert it to race lead. And just off them is Oliver Chatham at the wheel of the silver car with the Dayglow flashes to it. So this is 1st, 2nd and 3rd in Class 2 all together. Yeah,
you can see the 44 Porter there has got a rear bumper slightly loose, and there's definitely been some contact there, so the racing has been very close off the cameras, and hopefully it will continue to do so on the cameras for the rest of the race. But hopefully that damage is as bad as it will get, and that the air doesn't pull that off any further, because otherwise you might be getting a look in from the stewards and potentially a meatball flag. But with just 6 minutes remaining, if nothing changes, hopefully this battle for the top 3, which is very close, can continue on.
Yeah, it looks like it's just the top edge fixing, isn't it, that's come away, and the rest of it, I agree with you, looks reasonably intact. And you can see the damage. You look at the front right corner of the number 88, Paul Simpson, you can see where front of Paul's car has met the back of the number 44 car of Andrew Porter. But brilliant fight it is as they come over the start-finish line. You know what, we had a new fastest lap of the race last time through. You remember he was through the gravel trap at Island Bend. James Caley has just popped in the fastest lap of the race so far. Great recovery drive from him. He's up to 8th, 1 minute 51.038. That nets him 1 extra championship point.
Yeah, gets his got the grip, clearly got the bit between his teeth and is making progress. He'll probably, as I mentioned at the start of the race, really enjoy this one, picking his way through what are the slightly slower cars, because obviously qualifying right up in 5th place, he's got a bit of pace over the cars he will be around. But I'm sure he'll be somewhat disappointed to have started the race with a trip through the gravel and the grass. Yes.
So around and in towards the braking area for the Britain chicane comes this brilliant fight still for 9th and 10th position. Richard Baston still fighting away with Andy Toon. We've still got Kevin Harrison squabbling away with Chris Dyer. Those two pretty much inseparable for what will be 5th and 6th position. And just up the road from them, of course, we've got Bill Caley still fighting away with Neil Delagre. And you can see here the blue car of Neil Delagre is not at all in a safe position to try and hang on to the final podium spot. The Cayman behind in the hands of Bill Caley is looking to try and squeeze his way through on the run towards Lodge Corner, but he's not quite going to be able to do it. So into the braking area for Lodge. You can see the tail end of the Cayman was almost just sort of wiggling around a little bit. It was so hard on the brakes, the tail not dancing around, but just you could see it was unloaded. So over the start finish line, that's the battle for 3rd and 4th. Just behind them, the battle for 5th and 6th. We've got 4 and a bit minutes to go. And as they then turn their way through Old Hall Corner, head along the avenue through the little right-hand kink at Denton's, then the circuit really plunges away down in towards Cascades, downhill, and then flattens off mid-corner before you then get on the gas, fire the car nicely out of Cascades to carry that momentum all the way along Lakeside, and then in towards the daunting kink at Island Bend before you're then heavily onto the brakes and in towards what is quite a banked corner actually. Shell Oils, turn number 5, really hook the car in towards the apex, use that banking, fire the car off the exit, use a bit of the curb on the exit, and then shift up through the gears again as you head in towards the braking area for the first of the chicanes, which is going to be Britain's. Slightly tighter line taken in there by Neil Delagre, which might just compromise his exit if he's not careful. But the tighter line in might allow him to... Yeah, it is. It has compromised his exit, because you can see Bill Caley at the wheel of the Cayman now has drawn himself alongside, but he's on the outside line heading in towards the braking area for Hislops. A brief snatched break from Bill Caley, but Neil Delagre is still there. Parks the car on the apex of the corner, and now Bill Caley is still in full attack mode, but he needs to be conscious because Kevin Harrison, through all of this squabbling, has edged up onto the pair ahead, and now he, at the wheel of the 996, is looking to try and get a run as they head through Clay Hill and up towards Druids. So it's 997 from Cayman, from 996, and again, case in point, the championship regulations work. The cars might have differing brake horsepowers, but the minimum weight limits that they all run differ, and therefore, ultimately, the power to weight ratio is the same. So through Lodge Corner, 3 minutes to go. This is a great fight, and remember, this is for the final podium spot as well. So 3rd, 4th and 5th, all absolutely together, and Kevin Harrison is looking racy here, and all of a sudden Bill Caley has gone to defence. So Neil Delaghe getting away a little bit. Bill Caley carrying lots of momentum through Old Hall Corner, but it looks as though Kevin Harrison has had the better run, but has got nowhere to go. It's not the easiest circuit on which to overtake, and as long as Bill Caley positions the car where he needs it to be and gets cleanly off the corners, Kevin Harrison will be somewhat left scratching his head. Despite all of his experience, he'll still be scratching his head thinking, well, where can I get through? The door just isn't open. So 2 and a bit minutes to go. They're on their 10th lap at the moment. Mark McAleer still leading by 7 seconds. He's very much controlled the race since he broke away. He's just built that advantage and kept it there all of the time. Pete Morris, since moving through up to 2nd place, when he got through and ahead of Steve Wood at the time, of course, who's subsequently retired the championship leader, has now built the best part of a 3-second advantage between himself and this trio of cars now fighting away again. Neil Delaghe again slow, coming out of the Britain's chicane in towards the braking area for Hislop's. 3rd, 4th, 5th still all together, but it's the blue 997 of Delaghe that hangs on to 3rd. Bill Caley's Cayman sitting there in 4th, and then the silver and the green car of Kevin Harrison, that's the 996 that completes the top 5 currently. Now does Bill Caley have a better run heading up towards Druids? No, still cannot find a way through. It's not for want of trying, that is absolutely sure for Bill Caley, but everywhere he looks, Neil Delaghe is just covering him off at the moment, and Neil is getting cleanly off the corners and not making mistakes. The one thing that has surprised me is that whilst these three now have got themselves together, that we're not seeing the car behind the number 9 car in 6th place of Chris Dyer closing in. He has not really made inroads into the trio ahead, but I think this little trio are closing the gap on Pete Morris. I think that gap is coming down. Pete Morris's last lap, 1 minute 52.8. Yes, Neil Delaghe set his best lap of the race so far, 1 minute 52.6, so he's 0.2 of a second quicker than the 2nd place car that lies ahead. But that's probably to do with Pete Morris using all of his experience just to make sure that he controls the gap, doesn't push too much. The number 5 car in the hands, is it the number 5 car? Yeah, just turning its way through Shell Oils, is about to be lapped. So that is Brian Richardson about to be lapped by our race leader Mark McAleer. So back marker safely dealt with, and it looks like Mark McAleer is on course for a win here. So he's had mixed fortunes so far this season. Donington Park, where the season started, was not ideal for Mark McAleer. Got tangled up in an incident which meant that he could not compete and score in the 2nd race of the weekend, but he was on the podium in 3rd place in one of the races at Brands Hatch. He was on the podium as well in the 4th of them, and there is damage, and that is a damaged radiator, and that's the number 80 car of Bill Caley, who clearly has had a coming together, and Neil Delaghe is not to be seen. In fact, Neil Delaghe is now spun, I think, on the fluid that Bill Caley has put down. You can see the big dent in the rear of Neil Delaghe's car, where he has been biffed in the rear by Bill Caley, one would assume. That's the damage to the rear car of Delaghe. You can see the damage to the front of Bill Caley's car, and then to rub further salt into the wounds, Delaghe then spins on the coolant of Bill Caley. But the win, for the first time this season, is going to go the way of Mark McAleer. Mark McAleer comes through to win round 7 of the 2023 Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli. Pete Morris finishes in 2nd place, and who's going to come through to finish in 3rd place? It is Bill Caley that finishes 3rd on the road. Finishes 3rd on the road, with Kevin Harrison finishing in 4th position. Chris Dyer will finish in 5th in the end by the look of things, but only just does he finish in 5th place. And there is, by the look of things, further cars that are spinning down there on that coolant. And unfortunately, that is going to mean that another car is further down through the order. Paul Seagrave. There actually might have been further contact, but I would imagine if there was contact, it was due to the slippy conditions down there. And Class 2, by the look of things, is going to go the way of car number 44. Andrew Porter is going to come through to claim a win in Class 2. And he will be more than pleased with that, because it was way back on the 1st of April when he last claim to win in Class 2, and that was the opening round of the championship season at Donington Park, so he will be more than pleased to be back on the top step of the Class 2 championship, and has finished 10th overall in the end. So a few more cars to trickle their way over the start-finish line, including Ross Morris just coming through now, who's going to finish in 17th position. Shiraz Khan should be the next of those through. Yes, his blue and Dayglow car comes through now to finish in 18th place. 19th place, by the look of things, then is going to be Vince Blacker. And 20th position is the dark blue car with the yellow to it, which will be the next of the cars through and over the start-finish line. Final few just coming through now, and then I think we've ushered everybody over the start-finish line. But for Mark McAleer, that is his best result of the championship season so far. His first win for a man who is hugely experienced in Porsche racing, as is his son Jake McAleer, who we used to see out racing regularly. But it is 997s that finish in first and second place. Porsche Cayman in third, and the first of the 996s home was going to be Kevin Harrison, who ultimately finished in fourth position. So the drivers just waving their hands around, waving to the marshals, and what is a reasonable crowd here at Oulton Park. And let's just confirm the results with you for round 7 of the 2023 Porsche Championship with Pirelli here at Oulton Park. The win, his first of the season, goes the way of Mark McAleer. Pete Morris was second. Bill Caley finished third on the road. Fourth was Kevin Harrison, ahead of Chris Dyer. And completing the top 5 was Richard Baston, who came from 9th on the grid at the wheel of the car, which hadn't been run in until qualifying this morning. 6th place went the way of Jim Bryant. Then it was James Caley, who, remember, tumbled down through the order and fought all the way back to 7th and set the fastest lap of the race, who was next up with Richard Baston, Andy Toon, and the Class 2 winner, Andrew Porter, completing the top 10, so he was the winner of Class 2. In 11th place, it was Paul Simpson. 12th place went the way of the number 22 car of Peter Evans, and it was Oliver Chatton from Darren Labette and Ross Morris, who were completing the top 15. Shiraz Khan was there in 16th place, ahead of Paul Seagrave, Vince Blacker, Carl Hazelton, and then Tom Atherton finished in 20th position. Then, just outside of the top 20, Julian Morris was there in 21st. Neil Delaghi, I think, didn't finish in the end, spun down there at the exit of Knickerbrook and wasn't able to recover. Also finishing off the lead lap, but did take the checker flag, was Brian Richardson, and we know the whereabouts of the championship leader, I'm afraid, Steve Wood, who qualified on pole, but had to retire with that coolant leak down there at Hislops. And that is it. That is round 7 of the Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli done and dusted here at Oulton Park, but we will be bringing you round 8 later on today. The rescheduled timetable sees that race should take place in about an hour and a quarter's time, so go and grab a cup of tea, don't disappear for long. We'll be back with you very soon at Oulton Park. Goodbye.